Well, hello, Fifth and Sixth Grade. This is your devotional for Thursday, June 17th. And so Mrs. Jones and I are on a trip. We'll be back on tomorrow afternoon. So if anybody has any questions or anything, you can get a hold of me. You can still call me or anything. But we have a couple of Bible passages to read. First one is Exodus 21 through 6. And this says, "And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For the Lord thy God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." Then over to Revelation 21, verses 10 and 11. It says, "And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great Spirit, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal." All right, so those are the verses we're going to talk about now. The story for today, which is called Precious Stones Part 2, as you guys remember. That was the first part was yesterday. Zoe enjoyed learning about the various precious stones in her aunt's jewelry store. "I didn't know gems and jewels could be so interesting," Zoe said one evening. "I always enjoy learning about them myself," said Aunt Kim. She pulled a book from the shelf. "Here's something you might like to read. It talks about different gems and how they've been used throughout history." History didn't sound especially interesting to Zoe, so she didn't ask any more about it. Aunt Kim continued anyway. "This chapter tells how harder stones were used for making inscriptions because they would not chip or break easily. That made them very valuable, but then something terrible happened." Zoe, who had been listening half-heartedly, sat up straight. "What happened?" "Because precious stones were so beautiful and valuable, people began to worship them," said Aunt Kim. "They used them as idols?" asked Zoe. Aunt Kim nodded. "I know God tells us not to worship idols or anything else," Zoe said. "We're only supposed to worship Him." "That's right," said Aunt Kim. "But even Christians can put too much value on things and put them ahead of God, and that's a form of idolatry. I must admit I sometimes get priorities mixed up myself. Things, like the gems I work with, become too important to me." "But gems aren't evil," said Zoe. "No, but compared to Jesus, they're worthless. He's the one who saved us and promises to take care of all our needs." Aunt Kim smiled at Zoe. "Do you remember how the Bible describes a heavenly city where we'll live with Jesus someday?" Zoe nodded. "It says the streets will be made of gold, and the city gates will be made with pearl." "That's right," said Aunt Kim. "And it says many different precious stones will make up the foundations of the city walls. Stones like jasper, sapphire, and amethyst. There, gemstones and jewels won't be anything people would ever think to worship. They'll be used for commonplace things like streets and walls, nothing but beautiful bricks. That's because all sin will be gone, and we'll have the glory of God all around us. We won't ever want to worship anything but Him." And so, how do you value things? Or even people? And do you do that above God? Do you value your video games? I know I pick on video games all the time, but do you value your friends? Do you value your family more than you do God? And it would be important to understand that about yourselves. Sometimes at your age, you start to think about your friends more than you do anything else. You value their opinion more than anything else. But remember, even if you don't do that now, but there's always going to be some time where somebody's going to catch your attention. You're going to think that they have this great wisdom, but just remember that the Bible always has the final answer and is the final authority to anything that you're thinking about. And you've got to be able to clearly understand what the Bible is teaching so that you can have a clear understanding of what God wants you to understand about Him and about life. Some people look at money as being the most important thing, that if you don't have money, then somehow God's not blessing you. But the truth is that is exact opposite. And it doesn't mean God is blessing you because you don't have money, but what I'm saying is that having money doesn't equate to God's blessings. That's the problem that the Jews made back in Jesus' time. The disciples were concerned that nobody could be saved because if the rich can't get into heaven, remember when He talked about the rich man that came to Him and asked Him how he could get to heaven? He said it's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle than for, easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to heaven. And the disciples were stunned. They just couldn't believe that that was the case, because in their mind, if you had money, then that was God's blessing. Don't equate God's blessing with things, with money. Think about what his ultimate goal for us. You can't buy it. You can't have enough money for it, and that is to be like Jesus Christ. And so we need to make sure that there's nothing in our life that's more important to us than God and the salvation that he provides us in becoming more like his son. All right, well, that's it for today. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.